Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're going to be looking into the future. Not flying cars or anything like that.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah, not yet. But we're going to be looking at the future of work. And for this,
It's a big one.
yeah, it's a really big one. We're going to be looking at excerpts from The Future of Work, which is
Excellent source.
a really thought-provoking source. And I think one of the first things that jumped out at me when we were looking at this is it said 60% of the jobs that we see around us
Wow.
today, they didn't even exist 30 years ago. That's wild to think about.
Yeah, I mean, it's a testament to how quickly things are changing, right? Like the pace of change is accelerating,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to technology. But I think, at its core, work is still about solving problems. Like whether we were, back in the day plowing fields or now we're coding apps, it's still about
Right,
meeting those needs, overcoming challenges. That fundamental aspect, that's not going to change.
right. So technology isn't necessarily eliminating work.
Exactly.
It's changing
how we do it.
how we do it, which brings us to the big question, right?
Yeah.
Are robots coming for our jobs?
That's the one everyone wants to know, right? It's like the big fear. But I think it's more nuanced than just a yes or no. I mean, we've seen these incredible advancements in AI, like GPT-3, for instance. It can write poetry, hold conversations that sound so human. It's pretty remarkable.
It is a little freaky, I have to admit. I've messed around with some of those AI writing tools, and it is a little unnerving how good they're getting. What happens when they can do not just manual tasks,
Right.
but
Think
the intellectual jobs as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, some experts predict that by 2030, automation could impact as many as 375 million jobs globally. But, that doesn't necessarily mean those jobs are just going to vanish. It's more likely they'll evolve, requiring new skills, new ways of working alongside these technologies.
So instead of worrying about the robot apocalypse, we should maybe be thinking about how to adapt,
Absolutely.
how to upskill for this new future.
100%.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
So maybe, listener, if you're thinking about a career change, maybe this is a good time to consider fields that focus on those uniquely human skills that are a little bit harder to automate, like empathy, creativity, critical thinking, those sorts of things.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because that actually reminds me of a conversation I had with a friend of mine recently. She's a teacher. And, she was saying how, yes, AI can assist with certain aspects of teaching, but it can never truly replicate that human connection that's at the heart of it.
Right.
There's something about, a teacher's ability to inspire, to connect with each student on an individual level. You can't really program that, can you?
Yeah, that makes total sense. I mean, and I bet there's a lot of jobs like that, especially in fields like healthcare, social work, even in the arts. You can't really replace
You need that human touch.
the human touch. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not just about, robots and algorithms. It's about this fundamental shift in our values and priorities as well. Exactly. I mean, as AI takes over more of those routine tasks, it gives us this opportunity to really focus on what makes us uniquely human, our ability to connect, to create, to care for one another. Which, I mean, it's an exciting prospect, right? But it does require us to kind of rethink how we define success, what we value as a society.
It really does. The robots aren't necessarily going to be our overlords.
Hopefully.
Hopefully not. But they are definitely pushing us to evolve in a lot of ways. And now, I know we've been talking a lot about robots and AI, but there's another really big trend shaping the future of work. And that's the rise of the gig economy and digital nomadism.
Yes. The dream, right?
Yeah.
You're a digital nomad working from your laptop on a beach in Thailand.
Okay, stop. You had me at beach in Thailand. But I mean, really that idea of working from anywhere in the world, being your own boss, it's very appealing to a lot of people.
It's no surprise. I mean, the stats show it. Something like 36% of the global workforce is already part of the gig economy. And that number's only going to grow, right? But like any major shift, it comes with its challenges. We need to address things like job security, benefits, and making sure it's a more equitable system for everyone involved.
Right. And that's where ideas like universal basic income come in. I know some people hear UBI and they think, oh, free money. But it's much more nuanced than that, right? It's essentially a system where everyone receives a regular payment regardless of their employment status to help cover those basic needs.
Exactly. And, it's not just a theoretical concept anymore. Countries like Finland and Canada, they've already run pilot programs to test its feasibility.
Yeah.
And, it's really interesting. A lot of people who are in favor of UBI actually argue that it could boost the economy.
Really?
Yeah, because it gives people more financial security, which allows them to pursue their passions, maybe even start their own businesses.
Okay, now that's a future I can definitely get behind.
Right.
And speaking of pursuing passions, let's talk about the skills that are going to be most valuable in this new world of work. What should our listeners, especially those just starting out, what should they be focusing on?
Well, the World Economic Forum, they came out with this really fascinating stat. 65% of children starting primary school today
Wow.
are going to end up in jobs that don't even exist yet.
That's crazy.
Think about that. It's mind-boggling. So adaptability, curiosity, those are key. What you're learning today might be the foundation for a job no one's even thought of. But some things will always be valuable. Like critical thinking, problem solving, creativity, being able to collaborate effectively with others. Those are skills that will always translate.
So rote memorization and following instructions.
Not so much.
Out the window.
Yeah.
But being a lifelong learner, somebody who's curious, adaptable.
Exactly.
Those are the things that
The future of work is going to reward those who are comfortable with ambiguity. Those who can embrace change and see it as an opportunity.
It is kind of exciting to think about,
Oh, absolutely. The possibilities are endless.
But what could those jobs be?
Who knows? I mean, that's the beauty of it. We get to be a part of shaping that future.
That's true. All right, well, let's take a little break, and when we come back, we'll continue this deep dive into the future of work.
It's funny, when we talk about these skills of the future, the conversation always seems to go towards STEM fields. Coding, engineering, all that. What about creativity? Isn't that something uniquely human, that robots can't replicate?
You're so right to bring that up. Creativity is often overlooked in these discussions. And it's funny because, creativity isn't just about painting a masterpiece or writing a symphony. It's a fundamental human skill that we use all the time, every day, to solve problems.
Yeah.
Come up with new ideas, just navigate life, really.
I like that. Thinking about creativity as this problem-solving tool.
Yeah.
So even in a world full of AI and automation,
there's always going to be a need for creative thinkers, people who can see things differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the demand for creativity might actually increase in the future. Think about it. If machines are handling all the routine, predictable tasks,
right,
what's left for us humans?
Right.
The messy stuff.
Yeah.
The unpredictable, the creative stuff.
That makes sense. So the future belongs to the artists, the innovators.
The out-of-the-box thinkers.
Yeah, those who can connect the dots.
Yeah. And that's where things get really interesting because, when we talk about the future of work, it's not just about what we do.
Right.
But why we do it. What if, in a world where basic needs are met, we could choose work that aligns with our passions, our values?
That's kind of a radical idea, isn't it? I mean, it would completely change how we think about work. Instead of it being just a means to an end, it could be an expression of who we are.
Exactly. Imagine a world where work is no longer about, climbing the corporate ladder, chasing the next promotion.
Right.
It's about finding meaning, finding purpose.
Okay, I have to admit, that's a pretty inspiring vision. But let's be real for a minute. Even if we could get to that point, there are going to be some big challenges along the way. Like, what happens to those people who are left behind by all this technological advancement?
That's a crucial point. You're absolutely right. We can't talk about the future of work without acknowledging that potential for technology to actually worsen those existing inequalities.
Right.
If we're not careful, we could end up in a world where you have a small elite who benefit from all this AI and automation while everyone else struggles to keep up.
So it's not just about developing these technologies, it's about making sure everyone has access to them.
Exactly. And the skills to actually use them effectively. We need to be thinking about things like digital literacy programs, affordable internet access, training opportunities. We need to equip people with the tools to thrive in this new landscape.
And it's not just a government issue, is it? I mean, businesses have a role to play here as well, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, companies need to think beyond just the next quarter's profits. They need to think about that long-term impact their decisions are having on their employees, on communities. They need to invest in training and development, creating opportunities for advancement, and just making sure that everyone has a fair chance to succeed.
So the future of work, it's not just about robots and algorithms.
No.
It's about human choices.
It's about our values.
It's about using technology in a way that lifts everybody up, not just a select few.
Precisely. And, even with all the uncertainty and the challenges, I'm actually pretty optimistic. I think we're at this really unique moment where we have the power to actually shape this future of work in a way that benefits everyone.
I like that.
It's up to us.
Yeah. So amidst all this talk about AI and robots, where do you see the greatest opportunities for us to really flourish?
Well, I think one area where humans will always have that edge is in those jobs that require empathy, compassion, that ability to connect with others on a deeper level.
You're talking about fields like healthcare, education, social work.
The arts.
The arts.
Yeah. Jobs that require a human touch
Yeah,
that robots just can't replicate.
exactly. I mean, I think those fields are going to become even more important as technology kind of takes over more of those routine tasks.
Absolutely. We're going to need people who can care for the sick,
Yeah.
educate the next generation, create art that inspires us, build strong communities.
It's like as machines get more intelligent, we need to become more human.
I love that. And, it's not just about those traditional helping professions either. I think we're also going to see a growing demand for what I like to call purpose-driven work.
Okay.
So those are jobs focused on solving social problems, environmental problems,
Yeah.
making a positive change in the world.
That's so interesting. So the future of work might not be about climbing the corporate ladder. It might be about finding a role where you feel like you're making a difference.
Exactly. And I think we're already starting to see that shift happen.
Yeah.
We see more people choosing to work for companies that are mission-driven
Yeah.
or starting their own businesses that are really focused on that social or environmental impact.
Which is really cool. It all makes me think about this idea of success. Like, if we're not just working for a paycheck, how do we define success in the future of work?
Yeah, that's the question, isn't it? And I think the answer is different for everyone. For some people, it might be that flexibility, working from anywhere in the world. For others, it might be about finding that job where they're making a difference in their community. And for others, it might just be that financial security, being able to pursue those passions without having to constantly worry about, making ends meet.
I love that. So it becomes less about external markers of achievement and more about finding a path that feels meaningful to you.
Exactly. And I think that's a really positive thing because ultimately the goal of work shouldn't be just to survive.
Yeah.
Right? It should be about living a life that feels rich and meaningful.
Yeah. All right. So we've talked about robots, the gig economy, the importance of human skills. We've even talked about redefining success. What else do we need to think about as we kind of navigate this uncharted territory?
Well, one thing we haven't really touched on yet is the role of government and policy.
Right.
Governments have a huge part to play here, from investing in education and training programs to creating regulations that protect workers' rights in this age of, AI and automation.
So it's not just about individuals adapting, it's about creating a system that works for everyone.
Exactly. We need to make sure that those benefits of this technological progress are shared widely, that everyone has the opportunity to participate in this new economy.
Okay. So we've covered a lot of ground today, from the challenges of automation to the possibilities for purpose-driven work. But I have to ask, is there anything about this future of work that, keeps you up at night?
I think the thing I worry about the most is that we won't adapt fast enough.
Yeah.
Our systems, our institutions, that we won't keep pace with all these rapid changes that technology is bringing about. If we don't, we risk widening that gap between the haves and have-nots. And we could end up with a future where only a very select few actually benefit from all this progress.
That is a sobering thought. But, even with all of that, I'm still optimistic. I think we have the knowledge, we have the tools, and we have the creativity to build a future of work that is both prosperous and equitable.
I agree. It's a matter of making the right choices.
Exactly. And I think that's why it's so important to have these conversations, to explore these possibilities and the challenges ahead so we can try to create a future that's really worthy of, our full human potential.
I completely agree. I mean, the future isn't something that just happens to us.
Right.
We're creating it right now.
Absolutely. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to take another quick break. And when we come back, we'll wrap up our deep dive into the future of work.
Well, we've been on quite the journey, haven't we, exploring this future of work.
We have.
From, robot takeovers to the rise of the gig economy.
Right.
And the importance of, those uniquely human skills like creativity and empathy.
Absolutely.
It's been a whirlwind of ideas, but that's kind of what we do here on the Deep Dive,
That's right. Dive right in.
We take a deep breath.
Head first.
We jump in.
Yeah.
So I think before we wrap things up,
Okay.
let's take a second to just distill some of the key takeaways
Yeah.
from our exploration of all this.
Sounds good.
So I think first and foremost, it's important to recognize that, the very nature of work is transforming. I mean, the jobs of tomorrow,
Right.
they're going to look very different from the jobs of today.
And the skills that we're going to need to thrive in this new world, they're going to require, adaptability, lifelong learning, a willingness to embrace change.
You got it.
It's not just about learning how to code or operate the latest gadget, It's about developing that mindset.
Yeah, that growth mindset.
Yeah, that embraces innovation and continuous growth.
Mm-hmm.
And I think being comfortable with not knowing all the answers.
Right.
And being willing to just, constantly learn and adapt as things change around us.
100%.
And then second, I think it's really important to acknowledge that technology, while it is a powerful tool for progress, it's not a cure-all.
Right.
We really need to be mindful of how it could worsen those existing inequalities.
For sure.
And we need to ensure that everybody has the opportunity to benefit from these advancements.
Exactly.
So that means, actively working to bridge that digital divide, making sure everybody has access to education, training, and creating policies that promote a more equitable distribution of all these, benefits that come with all this technological progress.
Could not agree more.
And then finally, I think it's crucial to remember that amidst all this talk about robots and AI, the most valuable things that we're going to have moving forward are those uniquely human qualities. Our creativity, our empathy, our ability to connect with one another on a deeper level.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
I mean, it's this powerful reminder that even in a world that's becoming increasingly reliant on technology,
right,
our humanity is still our greatest strength.
It is.
Now, I know we've covered a lot today.
We have.
But before we go, I want to leave our listeners with a question to kind of ponder.
Okay, hit me with it.
So imagine for a moment that all your basic needs are met.
Okay.
Food, shelter, healthcare, everything. In this world where survival is no longer tied to a paycheck, what kind of work would you choose to do? What would ignite your passion?
Wow.
And make you feel like you were truly contributing to something meaningful?
That's a great question. It really challenges us to think differently about what work could be.
Yeah.
If we weren't so worried about, just getting by.
Exactly. It's this idea that, work could become less about obligation, more about expression, contribution, connection.
Yeah, I love that.
So as you go about your day, listeners, we encourage you to kind of keep that question in mind, What kind of work would you choose to do if you could design your ideal future? What would it look like? What would it feel like? And what steps can you take today to start creating that future for yourself?
Yeah, that's the key. What can you do today to start building that tomorrow?
Exactly.
It's empowering.
It is. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the future of work. We hope you've gained some valuable insights.
I hope so, too.
And maybe even, a renewed sense of wonder.
Yeah.
And possibility for what the future holds.
The future is ours to create.
It is. All right, until next time, keep on diving deep.
Keep diving.